Good day, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this webinar on the current International Space Station National Lab Research Announcement, or NLRA, Igniting Innovation, Science in Space to Cure Disease on Earth. I'm Patrick O'Neill, Public Affairs and Outreach Lead for the ISS National Lab. This webinar is designed to help educate those of you who might be interested in applying for this specific research announcement. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the ISS National Lab website. Additionally, at the end of this webinar, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. Okay, so let's get a little into the background and history of the ISS National Lab. The Center for the Advancement of Science in Space, or CASIS, is the manager of the ISS National Lab and has served as such since 2011 through a cooperative agreement with NASA. In fact, in 2022, NASA extended this cooperative agreement for CASIS to manage the ISS National Lab through 2027. Each year, the ISS National Lab puts forth a variety of research announcements focused on targeted areas for researchers, companies, innovators, and educators alike. The ISS National Lab enables greater access to the space station, a unique platform in low Earth orbit to bring scientific value back to people on Earth, stimulate commerce in space, and help build the space industry workforce of the future. And with that, I'd like to bring into the conversation Dr. Davide Marotta, Program Director in Space Biomanufacturing for the ISS National Lab. Davide, good morning. Welcome.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm looking forward to providing some insight into this research announcement, leveraging the ISS National Lab, igniting innovation, science in space to cure disease on Earth.
So with that, let's start off with the obvious question of why would you want to conduct research in space?
The ISS National Lab provides the opportunity for scientific and technological discoveries under the unique space environment, which cannot be replicated on Earth. Conducting research in low Earth orbit, or LEO, offers several advantages. Persistent microgravity has proven to have a profound impact on both physical and living systems. Removing the vector of gravity from your research may allow you to see your research with a brand new lens of discovery. Gravity-induced forces like buoyancy, thermal convection, sedimentation, and diffusions are reduced or removed on the space station, enabling research not possible on Earth. Now, imagine running experiments without the pesky interference of gravity. Cells float around like dancing with the stars, and microgravity is an accelerator of conditions. That means everything happens faster in space, and this would create an advantage for disease modeling, drug discovery, crystallization, and aging. In microgravity, experiments are like sci-fi movies, fast-paced and full of surprises. It's like putting your research on a fast track. The extreme environment available through the ISS National Lab may be useful for accelerating materials durability testing by exposing materials to the harsh condition of space. These include extreme heat and cold cycling, ultra-high vacuum, atomic oxygen, and high-energy radiation, all of which can be harnessed during experimentation and testing. The space station also provides a unique vantage point from which to study our planet. As the station's orbit covers 90% of the world's populated areas, this vantage point provides a global perspective on Earth's climate, weather patterns, and environmental changes, helping monitor and understand phenomena such as climate change, natural disasters, deforestation, and ocean currents. The advantages of the ISS National Lab benefit a wide variety of R&D areas. Let's take a minute to discuss what we'll cover during this webinar, and then we'll get into the specifics of this research announcement. Today, we'll discuss the current Igniting Innovation research announcement, including the objectives and areas of specific interest. We'll then look at some existing ISS National Lab research examples. Our webinar will be then outline the process and timeline of this research announcement, along with some details about the award itself. Then, as Patrick mentioned, we'll have a question and answer session. Let's talk about this research announcement, Igniting Innovation to Cure Disease on Earth, leveraging the ISS National Lab. We are seeking projects that aim to accelerate scientific discovery, leading to preclinical translation and clinical application to tackle the major diseases of our time, with clear line of sight to commercial applications for Earth or space-based product development and create a workforce of the future and foster also collaborations. You're probably wondering what is the difference between Igniting Innovation and the other research announcements. Let's explore that for a minute. Igniting Innovation is a multi-year, multi-flight ISS National Lab research announcement in partnership with NASA's Division of Biological and Physical Sciences, BPS. For Igniting Innovation, a technology roadmap is required, making this a three-step submission process. Funding is available for both the principal investigator and implementation partner costs. Implementation partners are organizations that have expertise in translating proposed work for the ISS environment. We'll talk more about them in a few minutes. Lastly, we are seeking proposals that have fund provided by the offeror or a funding partner that match or exceed the funds requested through the research announcement. We are seeking proposals to enhance models of major diseases like cancer, neurodegeneration, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and also COPD. These models face challenges such as understanding disease dynamics, developing accurate models, and identifying effective therapeutic targets. The potential impact of improved cell-based models on personalized therapies is immense and inspiring. Diseases like cancer and COPD are complex, with genetic and phenotypic diversity posing challenges to drug discovery. Models must represent diverse populations, including underrepresented ethnic groups, to account for variability in treatment responses. This is crucial because specific reasons like genetic variations or socioeconomic factors can significantly impact treatment outcomes. Innovative approaches are needed for drug screening and development, leveraging advanced technologies to accelerate therapeutics and improve patient outcomes. The microgravity environment allows for high-throughput drug screening in 3D cultures, enhancing our ability to develop new treatments, and also developing specific biomarkers is critical for early detection and effective management. In drug delivery, challenges include targeting drugs precisely to minimize side effects, especially in oncology and respiratory therapy. Innovations like nanotechnology are vital for precision. The need for well-defined biomarkers and the toxicity of treatments necessitate ongoing innovation. Drug resistance is a significant challenge in treating diseases like cancer, diabetes, and COPD, requiring innovative strategies for more effective treatments. Proposals must justify the use of the ISS, highlighting how space benefits the research. Proposed projects should build on existing space-based research for impactful results. Proposals also must include milestones, timelines, and letters of support from commercial partners to confirm feasibility of interest.
So Davide, it sounds like projects with economic benefit, either directly or indirectly, are very much so in demand.
Absolutely. And if you're familiar with technology readiness level, you should be considering the maturation of technology from around the TRL 4 or higher and looking to raise the TRL to 6 or higher. Researchers might want to think of a solution that resolves a key technology or biomedical hurdle, which then allows them to take a product to the marketplace, or they may conduct space-based research that enhances or expands the market reach for a product. Your Step 1A concept summary should address your current TRL and expected final TRL. Having a line of sight for commercial applications is a good idea, enabling a commercial offering to an end user after you conclude your work on the ISS. I've only scratched the surface of what's provided in the research announcement instructions. The downloadable documents on the research announcement webpage contain more information than what I'm sharing with you here today. Use the QR code on the screen to go directly to the announcement webpage to download the instructions and announcement information. Now, I'd like to share a few examples of recently selected Igniting Innovation projects. These projects were selected through last year's Igniting Innovation research announcement, which was focused primarily on cancer research, but they'll give you a clear clear idea on the kinds of projects we are looking for as we branch out to include other diseases in this year's announcement. A project with the University of Connecticut and Escrow Biotech is using genus-based nanomaterials to produce cancer therapeutics in space. Producing JBNs in microgravity could make them more uniform, increasing both safety and efficacy. This would allow JBN to carry larger amount of drugs for more effective treatment. Cedars-Sinai is looking at cardiac spheroids with blood vessels from pluripotent stem cells. In space, cells grow into 3D structures that are more like cell growth in the body. And blood vessels may also grow better within the spheroids in microgravity. Space-grown cardiac spheroids could provide a better disease models for studying cardiovascular diseases and testing cancer drug toxicity. UC San Diego will observe the rate of cancer stem cell growth in space where cancer cells can grow more quickly to test whether blocking a specific enzymes prevents cancer stem cell growth. Results could lead to the new treatments that target evasive cancer stem cells to prevent cancer recurrence. The University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center will study T cells in space to better understand what controls them, and results could lead to improved immunotherapy drugs that use the immune system to fight cancer. Previous research has shown that microgravity induces changes in the structure and function of these cells. And lastly, WFIRM will study how spaceflight changes gene expression in the organoids to identify targets for new, more effective chemotherapy drugs. Results from this project could also lead to personalized cancer treatments. All the selected projects mentioned are building on previous space-based research or have flown before. With these examples in mind, let's talk about the facilities on board the ISS that can support projects awarded through this research opportunity. The ISS National Lab offers state-of-the-art hardware and internal and external facilities, providing a wide range of research equipment and systems for your R&D in LEO. I encourage applicants to review the facilities information using the QR code provided here and in the research announcement instructions. Please reach out to us with any questions about available hardware and facilities. In addition, we ask all applicants to identify an implementation partner they like to work with and start a dialogue about project goals. It is important to connect early with an implementation partner during Step 1A concept summary preparation. Please visit our implementation partner directory and engage with them. A conversation with an implementation partner will start the ball rolling when it comes to component design and implementation, as well as the execution of your project when on station. You will want to get also a realistic estimate of what your project might cost, especially if you are new to space. Since we are talking about cost, this is the perfect time to provide some award information. Funding for this specific research announcement is $4 million with the expectation of 2 to 3 awards. Funding may be allocated to support all aspects of the project, including principal investigator costs, project management, hardware development, and implementation partner mission integration costs. Launch to the ISS, the cost of any crew resources that you might need to perform your experiment, and resources to get your samples or your data home to Earth will be completely covered as well.
Thanks for that deep dive on the research announcement, Davide. I'm sure most viewers have a few questions in mind. What do I need to do to apply? When do I need to do it by? How does a review process work? And most importantly, do I need to write a full proposal to be considered right off the bat?
Those are all great questions. I want to remind everyone that this is a 3-step application process. Igniting Innovation has a 3-step submission process that begins with the Step 1A concept summary. The concept summary is a 3-page short summary of your proposals, which is due by September 26, 2024. Take your time and read through all of the Step 1 concept summary instructions. During the concept summary review, we conduct a high-level review for operational feasibility and for scientific and technical scope. And we also do a preliminary compliance review. If you pass that step, we will contact you and invite you to submit Step 1B. Step 1B is a new step that we introduced for Igniting Innovation, the technology roadmap, due by November 22nd, 2024. If you pass Step 1B, we will invite you to submit a Step 2 full proposal by March 3rd, 2025. Here, you can see the timeline for the current Igniting Innovation research announcement. This research announcement opened on August 15th, and the Step 1A concept summary is due September 26th. For those invited to submit a Step 1B, the technology roadmap, the deadline is November 22nd. Those who pass Step 1B will be invited to submit a Step 2 full proposal, which is due March 3rd, 2025. It's important to know that there are advantages to submitting your Step 1A concept summary early. For example, if you don't get selected, you may be notified prior to the deadline, providing you with feedback and an opportunity to make alterations to your Step 1A concept summary and resubmit for another attempt.
So Davide, is it fair to say that everything we've covered so far regarding this research announcement is all detailed in the downloadable documents and instructions available online?
Absolutely. In fact, there's more details in those documents than what I'm sharing with you now.
Perfect. Is there also information regarding the evaluation process?
Yes, details on the evaluation methodology can be found in the proposal evaluator instructions for this research announcement, which is one of the documents contained in the zipped file available for download. Now, would be a good time to go over some helpful tips for preparing a Step 1A concept summary. If you are interested in submitting a Step 1A concept summary, I encourage you to use the available resources. Use the QR code here to go directly to the page, or use the resource links on the research announcement page. Connect with an implementation partner early. The scope of work and budget that you receive from your selected implementation partner is critical. Write to the evaluation criteria. The instructions outline the evaluation criteria that will be used to evaluate your concept summary. Be sure to address all evaluation criteria. Proposals that do not address all the criteria or address them poorly are very likely to receive low evaluation ratings. Lastly, submit a compliant concept. Ensure that your research objectives are within the scope of this specific research announcement. Remember, we are available to answer questions in advance of your Step 1A concept summary submission, and also during any phase of your application process. You can email us anytime. In conclusion, please visit the research announcement page. Read the guidelines to get familiar with the announcement process, prepare your concept summary, and submit it on time. And get ready to make a difference on Earth by bringing your R&D to low Earth orbit.
To our audience, remember that the goal of ISS National Lab activities is to bring value and impact back to the U.S. economy and taxpayers by benefiting humanity. Well, that was an outstanding review of this Igniting Innovation research announcement, Davide, now that it's open and ready for applicants. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Thanks, Patrick. I enjoyed it. Now you have all the information you need to get started on your concept summary submission. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of the expertise and access to space available to you through the ISS National Lab. So what's next on the agenda? And are we ready to answer some questions?
Definitely. In just a minute, we'll be taking questions from you, our webinar attendees. Stay tuned. Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Q&A portion of today's webinar for ISS National Lab Research Announcement 2024-9, Igniting Innovation, Science and Space to Cure Disease on Earth. I'm Patrick O'Neill, Public Affairs and Outreach Lead for the ISS National Lab, and I will be your host for today's webinar, this portion of today's webinar, I should say. A couple of logistical elements real quick. First, for those interested in asking a question, please do so in the Zoom Q&A box below. Second, I encourage all who are attending today's webinar to go to the applicant resources page on this research announcement. There you'll find a variety of helpful resources, including information on frequently asked questions. Okay, now before we get into the actual Q&A portion, though, we do have a special guest. Dr. Lisa Carnell, Division Director for NASA's Biological and Physical Sciences Division. Dr. Carnell will provide some remarks and a presentation on the role of NASA's BPS and involvement in this research opportunity. Dr. Carnell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Patrick. Can you hear me okay here?
We got you loud and clear.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for inviting me to join you with this exciting opportunity in the webinar. Next slide, please. So in the Biological and Physical Sciences Division, much like the International Space Station National Lab, we use that spaceflight environment to study both biological and physical systems, ranging from the smallest microbes in the universe to looking at quantum in the physical environment. Next slide, please. And our mission is to pioneer scientific discovery. So looking at those changes that happen at the most fundamental level that really inform and develop the new science for us, and enabling NASA's exploration and mission goals. And then, of course, as the mission of ISSNL, it is also NASA's mission to contribute to life on Earth. So all of the work that we do on the International Space Station has direct translation and benefit to you all here on Earth. Next slide, please. So we have multiple program areas in BPS. We have space biology, which is direct link to this national lab call. We have physical sciences, and we span everything from combustion to fluids and materials science, and our fundamental physics that touches quantum. We've initiated a new area of research in commercially enabled rapid space science that's going to benefit all of us doing research on national lab, on the ISS. So this is going to help us accelerate the pace that we can get that research done by having the full suite of instruments available to us. And then, of course, open science is key, ensuring that all of that data that we obtain is available and open to you as scientists and the public to be able to use and advance science even further. Next slide, please. So we've had impacts. The space station has been incredibly valuable for our nation from biomedical research, examining, the effect of the spaceflight environment right here, igniting innovation and the impact to cancer, agricultural innovations, being able to miniaturize and develop controlled environment agricultural activities that can be translated to austere environments, which we're leaning towards as we look towards sustainable presence in the lunar environment. And then consumer products, which a lot of you will be focusing on. How do we take that information that we've learned and translate that to something that has consumer benefit, much like Procter & Gamble did with their Febreze Touch, and technology advancements that we're using. So one of those areas that we're focusing on is cryogenic fluid transfer and how we can improve those models to make cryogenic fluid transfer much more efficient as we look towards exploration goals. Next slide, please. We are beholden by what we call our decadal surveys in the Science Mission Directorate. And in BPS, we received ours last spring. It's called Thriving in Space and had 3 science themes: adapting to space, living and traveling in space, and probing phenomena hidden by Earth, and 11 key science questions, which we use the ISS to answer those questions, and 2 major research campaigns. And so as we shape and move forward with the science that we conduct in our road mapping, and then over the next decade, we are guided by this document here, the Decadal Survey, Thriving in Space. It's available online, so feel free to look at it, and that will give you an idea of where we're headed in the BPS division. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. And one area that's been a really important aspect for BPS is focusing on tissue chips and using those to understand the fundamental science that's happening in biology. So, using that analog human type environment, that we can look at what the effects of combined radiation and altered gravity and the environmental conditions, both on ground and space. And this is going to help us really understand those mechanistic responses, much like what we're doing with Igniting Innovation, and help us inform our risk assessment models as we move towards exploration goals. Next slide, please. And as Davide mentioned earlier, these have the ability to lead to personalized medicine. So this translational benefit to Earth is also a benefit to NASA, where we can leverage the information that we gain from this to be able to create more personalized medical kits for the astronauts, to screen for countermeasures that are going to be most suitable for each one, especially as we look to these long duration space flight missions. Next slide, please. We have a rich history in BPS of partnering with other government agencies. I'm not going to read all of this, but as you can see, we've partnered with many other federal government agencies on tissue chips and organoid models, and that to really assess the impact of them, extending the longevity to a minimum of 6 months, both for ground-based and space applications. Next slide, please. This activity resulted in an $18 million investment and the 9 awards here, and those are actively ongoing at this point. Next slide, please. And of course, we partnered with the National Lab last year to kick off Igniting Innovation. And this is an incredibly valuable partnership for NASA and the National Lab, focusing on using that space environment to cure disease on Earth. So we're looking forward to the results from the previous awards. We're very excited to partner again with the National Lab and this future solicitation of Igniting Innovation. And we look forward to seeing the proposals that you all submit to this opportunity to help us also accelerate our understanding of human disease and those cancer tumor models and other disease models in the microgravity environment. So next slide, please. And with that, thank you. And I think I'll hand it back over to Patrick for questions.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Dr. Carnell. Always great to hear from NASA, especially as it relates to an opportunity where we are both heavily involved in. I did have a quick follow-up to you, and then I'm going to let you go because I know that you're very, very busy right now. But sorry, we're in Florida, and right now we're in the midst of a thunderstorm too. So, but the question I was going to ask is, how does this Igniting Innovation collaboration tie into the overall strategy of BPS? Given that the role of this opportunity is geared more towards fighting the diseases for patients here on Earth, and I think, as you mentioned, while that is an area where your team is involved with, it also ties in quite heavily with the ISS National Lab mission too.
Yeah, Patrick, thank you. And, I get that question all the time. And, as far as we're doing this research in space, we're supporting, NASA's mission, enabling, space exploration, looking at that fundamental biology. But our mission is understanding the fundamental biology to enable those missions to space, to support astronaut health and safety. But all of that too has such immense benefit to Earth, and that, as if you recall, is one of our goals in BPS, in pioneering scientific discovery, enabling exploration, and our third we take seriously is contributing to life on Earth and the benefits that we gain from the space station. So, and you all have been the natural partners for us in this, and we can't be more excited to take on this opportunity again and see where we can go with it.
Well, again, we greatly appreciate the partnership and the collaboration. To your earlier point about the Igniting Innovation first go around and the announcement of those 5 selected projects, we look forward to seeing how that develops. And again, we also look forward to seeing what types of concepts we're going to get this time around. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And I think we're going to try to move on now to the Q&A portion of things.
Great. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you. Okay, so that being said, we are going to move into the Q&A portion of today's webinar. And again, I do want to remind those that are interested in asking a question, please use the Q&A box in the Zoom feature below. I would also like to introduce those who will be providing answers for today's questions. So we will have Davide Marota, who you heard from a little bit earlier. He is our Program Director for In-Space Biomanufacturing. We have Dan Blaitler, Director of Research and Innovation for the ISS National Lab. We have Robbie Hampton, Director of Payload Operations for the ISS National Lab. And last but not least, we have Samuel Thorpe, Contracts Administrator for the ISS National Lab. So with the very first question, Dan, I think that you get to be the lucky person right off the bat. How long is the time between submitting a Step 1 concept summary and receiving an invitation to submit a Step 1B technology roadmap?
Great. Thanks, Patrick. Of course, the actual amount of time it will take will depend on the number of submissions we get. But based on the number we got last year and the number we tend to get for these larger solicitations, I'm imagining it's going to take at least 2 weeks for us to do the review and then another week to get the feedback out. So I would say 2 to 3 weeks would be a good timeline.
Perfect. Thank you, Dan. Sam, I'm thinking maybe this is a good one for you. All the projects shown were university and academic projects. Is funding available for private companies as well?
Yes. Excuse me. Private U.S. companies can submit proposals as well.
Easy enough. Perfect. Robbie, how do I identify which implementation partner might be able to assist me in producing a space-worthy design?
Nope.
Thanks, Patrick. One of the best ways to find an implementation partner is to visit our implementation partner directory on the ISS National Lab website. You can also email our ops department at ops@issnationallab.org for assistance. We do offer a program that we call the Implementation Partner Portal, where we can help match you with implementation partners that are out there. Please reach out to us if you're in need of finding one, needing help with finding one, and we can get you set up before your Step 1 concept submission.
Awesome. Thank you, Robbie. Dan, I think that the next two would probably be best fit for you. First and foremost, are NASA employees eligible for NLRA calls?
Under our cooperative agreement, NASA employees are not eligible to receive grant funding from the ISS National Lab.
Understood. So question number 2 then for you, does this solicitation allow internal projects costs to be funded or paid for by the ISS National Lab?
It does. It covers both project development costs from the PI side of the house, as well as implementation partner costs. But just as a reminder, we are looking for matching funds. So anything you request from the ISS National Lab in terms of funding should be matched by funding provided by the PI's organization for the, or a PI's sourced funding for the overall proposal.
Perfect. Davide, you know, I think I might be able to answer this question as well, but the question is, what advice do you have for groups who have never flown anything to space? I alluded to it a little bit earlier. If you go to our research announcement webpage, there is an applicant resources page that will probably be very, very helpful. That kind of provides a lot of different links and assets that can give you insights into frequently asked questions, to just learning a little bit more about the overall process of becoming part of the space station research community. Davide, I don't know if you want to add anything more to it than that.
No, I just want to add and contact the implementation partner that will guide you through the process. So it's going to be your fairy space godmother, so trust them.
Okay. Robbie, yeah, you're next. That's a tough one to follow, but do you need an implementation partner to agree before submitting a Step 1A?
You do not need to have an agreement with an implementation partner before submitting your concept, but it is highly recommended that you've had conversations with at least one implementation partner to better understand what potential costs and budget you're looking at.
Because after all, they are apparently the space fairy godmothers, as Davide said, right?
Yes, the space fairy godmothers.
There we
Yes.
go.
It can also help you with understanding what facilities and hardware are available to assist your research.
Okay. Dan, this is a good question. I applied for a prior NLRA submission, but was not selected. Can I still apply for this research announcement, even though I was not selected previously?
Yes, absolutely. You can submit to this solicitation if you were not selected in a previous solicitation. However, you should pay close attention to the feedback you were provided when you were not selected so that you don't make the same mistakes twice.
Makes sense. Sam, our contracts administrator, how will intellectual property be managed for awarded projects?
So there's a number of flow downs in each of our grants and user agreements. Would be a grant for this one more than likely, but those required provisions are inside of the documents that you will receive in the zip files from the NLRA, and you should review them with your counsel.
Noted. Okay, Robbie, good question. One that we get a lot for these webinars, but I think it's a very important one. What are the safety requirements for experiments conducted on the space station?
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, there are numerous safety requirements for conducting research on the space station. They are designed to keep the crew, the vehicle, and other experiments safe from yours. So there's a rigorous process that NASA has implemented, and your implementation partners will be the best resources and guides to help you address all safety concerns and get through that process.
Once again, showing love to the fairy godmothers. That's it. Sam, back to you again. Are international organizations eligible for funding? For example, could an international organization be a subrecipient to an award?
So entities must be U.S. entities, and your PIs must be U.S. persons at those entities.
Great. And then real quick before I get into some additional questions, we do want to encourage those that also have other questions that might not be addressed today to reach out to us via info@issnationallab.org. From there, we'll be able to also provide some feedback and some help along the way. Davide, can I submit more than one proposal or concept paper to this solicitation?
Yes, absolutely. But we would prefer if this was limited to 2 submissions per organization. But yeah, you can.
Okay. Dan, you touched on this a little bit, but again, I think that it's important for us to reemphasize. Is funding match required or expected?
So funding match is expected. I won't say use the word required, but I will say that all of the selections we made last year had matching funds, and the vast majority of them had fully secured matching funds. So if you want to be competitive, be matching.
And then this is another good question. It's an important one. Will be brought up at the end of the webinar as well, but I could use a reminder when our concepts due again. And then the Step 1A concepts are due September 26th. Is that correct, Davide?
Yep, absolutely, yes.
All right, it is now time for my favorite question of the day that we get because Sam is on the call. So Sam, can you answer, is SAM registration required to submit either a concept or full proposal?
So yes, for the proposal to be selected for an award, you do need to be registered in SAM.gov. It's required to do business with the U.S. government, and in the field for step 1 on the concept summaries, there will be a section for you to put your unique entity identifier or the UEI from SAM.gov. So make sure you have that, plug it in there, and you'll be good to go.
Can you at least admit that you enjoy that question too?
It gives me a giggle.
It's the little things. Good question for you, Dan. Are multiple flights required?
So no, multiple flights are not required. However, given the types of projects we expect to see, I would imagine that the vast majority of the proposals will include multiple flights.
Okay, perfect. And then Sam, back to you. And I think we touched a little bit on this, but maybe to reemphasize, is there a PI criterion? Could there be more than one PI?
So the PI needs to be a U.S. person, and that person's going to be responsible to the offerors organization for both the scientific and technical direction of the project. And we only accept proposals and award projects to U.S. persons and U.S. entities.
Okay. This is an interesting one. Robbie, are we limited to working with one implementation partner, or can it be multiples?
No, you are not limited to working with one implementation partner. You may find that there are multiple implementation partners that can meet your needs, as well as we have multiple facilities on the ISS that may be relevant to your research that might be operated by different implementation partners. So it is not uncommon for that practice to happen.
Awesome. Dan, good question here. Can matching funds also be in kind or a mix?
So matching funds can include in kind. Certainly, the majority of the funds should not be in kind. They should be actual funding that either the PI's organization is bringing to the fight or that they've secured from an external source. But to round out your half of the matching match half of the funding, in-kind funding can be a source.
Great. So I think that we are kind of rounding up a lot of the questions that have been either, directly or indirectly answered. But what I would toss out again is a couple of emails for those that are online right now to consider. If there are direct questions from like an operational perspective, I would recommend reaching out to ops at issnationallab.org. That said, if there are specific questions that were not able to be answered for this one that might be a little bit more helpful to reach out to directly via email, I would recommend doing so at info@issnationallab.org. So with that, I think that we are in a good position to hopefully give you all some of the tools that are required to move forward with a step one concept. So again, with that, I think that we are going to conclude today's webinar for ISS NLRA 2024-Igniting Innovation, or -9, Igniting Innovation, Science and Space to Cure Disease on Earth. As noted, please be mindful that Step 1 concept summaries are due September 26th. And again, with that, thank you so much for joining us and have a great afternoon.